Hey everybody, back with another video. This was motivated because somebody on KLOV, the forums, arcade forums, was having trouble with their CR7000, and they ran through a field test and it failed some of the settings. And I had been meaning to and wanting to actually do a video and actually do this myself. I've never done it before. I did do it one time before recording this video, so I actually kind of know what I'm doing, somewhat. But this was the first time I ever ran it. It was right before this. So I figured what I would do is run through the field test, and it's basically a test to test the functionality and the voltage measurements of the CR7000 and to make sure it's functioning correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is, it says here, we need a CR7000, our universal adapter, which is this right here, where you have the filament voltage and the cathode voltages and G1, G2 and stuff like that already just broken out into little mini clips. So you need that and a digital voltmeter, which I have over here with my EEV blog, Bremen or whatever, 235 meter. Alright, and then it says the first thing to do is connect the universal adapter to the CR7000, set the CR7000 controls to the following positions. Test gun select up here, and let me see if I need to raise this up a little bit, then zoom in. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Alright. Test gun select to red, which is up here. CRT type to video 1, which is right there. We're going to change our bias setting all the way to -20. The filament volts to the 0 to 4 volt range, which is right here. Typically we have it in the 4 to 8 range. We put it to 0 to 4. We're going to adjust all of our variable cutoffs to the full counterclockwise position. Set the function to filament volts, which is right there. We got that done. And then it just says we cannot test the remove G1 and REJUV functionality cannot be tested with these tests here. The first test is to test the filament voltage setting. Set the digital voltmeter to DC volts, which we did over here. Connect the reference lead of the digital voltmeter to F1 and the positive lead to F2. So let's do that real quick. So I think it's positive to F2. Says when it says reference, it means the negative lead to F1 and the positive to F2, which is gray, like that. There we go. Right, just double check all that. Turn our CR7000 on. Okay, and we're checking the filament voltage. Adjust the variable control. This one right here is supposed to be all the way to the minimum. I forgot that stuff. Let's put it to the minimum, and you can see we have 0.076 volts. And basically you're just checking to make sure that this variable adjustment goes from 0 all the way to, should be like 4 point something volts. Doesn't have to be exact. And you're also checking that the LED indicator is working. And it says filament volts, right? So this goes all the way to 4.144. And it's not supposed to be exact, so but it, 0 to around 4.4 or something. And then we want to go to 4.8 volts, and we should go from around 3.8 volts to 8.8. So we're at 3.9. And you can see that the LED switched down to filament volts range 4.5 to 8 volts. And 6.3 is usually where we're at. And you can see I'm at 6.377 on my meter. And then that should go all the way up to around 8.8 volts, or 8 volts is fine. Then we go to 8.16. LED comes all the way down. And we want to make sure we're going from around 7.6 volts to 17.6 volts. I think we get to about 16 or so. So we top out at 16.5 volts on this CR7000. So definitely, you know, I would say within spec, and my LEDs and everything's working fine. So I'm going to pause, and then we're going to come back and do the bias voltage test. Okay, so to do the bias voltage test, it says move our reference lead, so our black lead. We're going to move that to the RK lead, which should be this red one. And then we're going to move our positive lead to G1, which should be, I think, yellow, right? Yeah. Just like that. Make sure it's not touching anything. Alright, we're good. Okay, so, and then it says set the function switch to cutoff. And switch the bias switch through all the positions, checking for the following DC voltages. Negative 19 volts to 21 volts, negative 34 to 37. So it's giving us the range that we should be in. So we're already at bias of negative 20, and all of our cutoffs are fully counterclockwise. We're at video 1. We're at gun red. Alright, what's going on? G1. Reference was to RK. Well, now, Alright, well, it helps. I missed the important part. It says set the function switch to cutoff. I was going too fast. I just set it to G1. So set the switch and the function test to cutoff. And now we can go from negative 20 bias, we're at negative 19, which is within range. Negative 36 volts, we're at negative 35.84, which is within range. Negative 52, we look good, we're at 51 volts. Negative 68, we're at negative 67. Negative 83. That's negative 100 bias. 115 at with the 116 bias. 132 bias, negative. Negative 148. Negative 164. And negative 180. And then I believe it says to change our CRT type from video 1 all the way to scope, and it should be 10% of, right, I believe 10%, or yeah, 1/10 of the bias setting. So at negative 180, we're seeing that's 18 volts, negative 18 volts. Negative 164 is negative 16, and you get the idea. Negative 148 is negative 15 volts, so it's within range for all the settings. That's negative 100 bias, negative 84, negative 68, negative 52, negative 36, and negative 20. So our bias test is complete. It does say return it back to video 1 and negative 20 at the end of the test, and I will pause and come back with the cutoff test. Alright, it says move the positive lead of the voltmeter to G2. Should be, I think, black. No? What is it? Orange? Yeah, orange. Just like that. I'm just making sure these aren't touching anything. but so you can see them though still in the picture. Alright, that's good enough. Okay. Alright, so positively the we're doing cutoff right here. Reference lead to RK. Make sure the function switch is still at the cutoff, which it is. Adjust the cutoff level for the red gun and check the DC voltage swing between 20 volts DC and 400 volts DC. So I'm going to use this cutoff level here and start. You can see that I'm moving it and nothing's coming up on my voltmeter until we get around 40 volts. So I wouldn't say there's something wrong, but it's not at 20 volts. Like, I can't get anything to register on my voltmeter until around 40 volts. Now maybe that's because I have it on auto. Let me turn it off auto. Oh, there you go. That is because I had it on auto. Sweet. Alright, fix that. So we're at 0 volts almost, around 6 volts. And we're going up. There's 20. Okay. went over limit. There's 80. Let's go all the way back down again. Alright, cool. I guess it just wasn't able to, from the auto voltage, it wasn't able to register at that low. 103 volts, almost midway, almost 200 volts. And then all the way maxed out, we're at 398, which is pretty close to 400 volts. So I would say that that part is good. Return that fully counterclockwise, switch the gun select to green, then blue, and I think we have to change our reference voltage. So let's do, instead of red, we will do green. Like that. Oh, you guys can't really see that anyway. There's the green. And the red. And now we're going to change our test gun select to green. And we're going to go all the way up. Make sure it goes up to 400 volts. Video 1. It doesn't matter about the bias. Remember, function is on cutoff. We're at the green. And what video 1 does is it tests the voltage range from 0 to 400. If I went to video 2, this should be closer to around 600 volts. I wonder why is that not going all the way up to 8? I wasn't paying attention to that. Let me go back to my red. Okay, it does only go up to 3.5. Maybe I'd have to go to video 2. Now, it doesn't call for that, but I might experiment with that. I'm not sure. All right, one thing that I did notice when I first ran this test is, let's go to, turn this all the way back counterclockwise. And if we go to green, test gun select, and I'm on the red with my meter right there. I'm on the red cathode. And if I change my green voltage, I shouldn't really see an increase in volts in red, but I am. I'm increasing the green cutoff and I'm getting voltage on my red cathode. but my test gun select is on green, which I don't believe I should be getting. So if I reverse this and I go to, for instance, test gun red, and I hook onto green, oh, I'm getting voltage between, I'm increasing the red cutoff, and I'm measuring green, and I get voltage increase. That's weird. Alright, let me measure that with blue. There's my blue. And change my test gun select to red. And you see I'm not getting any voltage on measuring to blue, even though I'm cranking red and green. So there's something like tied together between the red and green that's a little wacky, I think. Oh, darn it. Never mind. Hold on. Hooked up the wrong darn thing. Let me look at what my test is. My test is supposed to be positive lead to G2. Positive lead to G2. Which is orange. Alright, positive lead to G2, and that stays there. And the reference lead, alright, let's go to blue. Alright. Alright, it goes all the way to 400 volts like it's supposed to. And all the way down. Okay. So now, if I test the green gun, I'm still getting voltage on blue. So I guess that is normal. I guess there is some voltage, even though, I don't know, maybe, I'm curious about that. So I'm hooked up to blue with my reference on my digital voltmeter. I'm hooked up to G2 over here. I have my gun select on green. You know, my blue cutoff obviously doesn't change anything. But if I raise up my green cutoff, it changes the voltage I'm seeing on between G2 and blue. So is that because the G2 is tied together for all the guns anyway? Right? Yeah, because no, the cutoff is, let me think about this. Yeah, the cutoff is adjusting the G2. Duh, for all of them. That's why. So that is expected, I guess. I didn't think about it. I thought maybe that was kind of crazy, but interesting. Alright, false alarm. Anyway, my cutoff test works. Hopefully that wasn't confusing because I was kind of learning as I went. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is test reactivate. So it says move the positive lead of the digital voltmeter to G1 and reference to RK. So we're going to move it to G1. We're reference to red. Like this. And our red lead is going to go to G1. Why can't I think, is that yellow? Yep, that's yellow. Like this. And obviously you just don't want to make sure you short anything out. I don't have it on right now. Which is good, obviously. Alright, like that. Should be okay. So we're going to turn it back on. And we're going to go to restore gun. Actually, I don't think it matters what test gun we're doing. Yikes. Alright. Reactivate. Set the function to reactivate. Okay, yeah, and we got to put our meter, and for me, I'm going to put the meter on milliamps, like that, because this should send about, what does it say, 1 milliamp for 30 seconds. And you want to do this for the red, the green, and the blue. So I think I have everything set up correctly. And there you can see we're close to 1 milliamp. And you should check to make sure that our LEDs are going to about the halfway mark, or exactly the halfway mark. And you just press and hold this for 30 seconds. And I am going to probably cut some of this out. Alright. Go to green. Change our reference or our negative voltmeter to green. See if you can see that. There you go. Barely in the camera. To the GK, and we're going to change our gun select to green. Should see this LED light up, and again 1 milliamp. We're at 0.98, so almost 1 milliamp. It's pretty close. Press and hold it like normal and it'll reactivate. 30 seconds. I haven't really timed it, but I assume that it's 30 seconds. I guess I could time it, but I'm not going that crazy. Alright, then we go blue, as you can see there. Change our gun select to blue, press and hold, make sure we get 1 milliamp for the full 30 seconds, and our LEDs for the blue gun are activated. Okay, and that is the reactivate test. Alright, so the next test is all of the restore functions, and you basically do the same thing we just did, but I'm going to change my meter to be regular amps. Can you still see that? Yeah. And we are going to go, we're still on the blue gun for test, so we're just going to go backwards. Blue gun, we're going to go to low. And this should give us, on this restore function, it should give us 40 milliamps, a quick burst, I think, of 40. Am I right? Yeah, 40. Make sure everything's connected correctly. Went up to about, I guess I could have left it on milliamps, but it went up almost to 40. Alright, so let's go to green. Just changing my scale a little bit off. And go to ready, boom. Got about 0.04, there you go, alright. And then we'll go to red. Quick 40. Oh. Helps if I hit the gun select to red. Alright, there's our quick, it was like, what, 0.036? And again, the scale could be a little off, but that's fine. Alright, so now we want to go to normal, which should be, I think, 2 hits of, well, it says it right here, 2 cycles, you can see that, 2 cycles of 80 milliamps. So, real quick, There's our 80. And there's our 80 again. And then obviously you do that for every gun. I already know this works, so I'm going to kind of spare you. I'll do the blue, maybe. Change our gun select to blue. There's our 80. There's our 80. And obviously you would do this for every gun and move your reference to the correct GK or cathode, like BK or GK or RK, the test lead. Alright, so let's go to high on the blue. Now this should be 100 milliamps, and it is. Okay, and then if we go, let's go to green. And we should actually see, what is it, three? Oh, it's 3 cycles. So 3 cycles of green. So there's 1. As long as you see this green light back turned on, you're still running the test. There's 2. There's 3, all at 100 milliamps. Alright, so now let's go to red and do an extended, which should be, I think, 15 seconds of 100 milliamps. Turn our gun select to red. We're connected to the RK. Reference voltage is on G1. I mean, not our reference, our positive multimeter is on G1. So we're going to get 100 milliamps for 15 seconds. Alright, well that's it, guys. That is running the field test. Now obviously you would want to run all those restore functions on all your different guns. So, you know, RK, move this black lead to RK, GK, BK, and change your restore gun to red, green, or blue. But basically, my CR7000 is working correctly. I thought it wasn't. I thought I might have some difficulty or some issues, but it was just the meter on the cutoff test, and it was just the fact that you are going to get voltage between G2 and your guns on the cutoff test. So because you're doing the G2, you're adjusting the G2 voltage, which is shared across all the guns. Obviously, it's a, you know, sort of. All right, that's it. Till next time.